Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to show you how we made these scallion pancakes with pork belly confit and a Hoisin Gastrique. It's a bit of a tongue twister. This is probably the most complicated recipe we've made thus far, and it has 4 components. Although it may look intimidating, we're going to go through each step in detail and show you how easy it is to make at home.
First, we're going to start by making our pork belly. So here we have a 1-pound boneless and skinless pork belly that we got from our butcher. We're just going to cube it so that it fits nicely in our pot. This recipe is a play on roast duck and scallion pancakes. So I originally wanted to make duck thighs since they're traditionally used in confit, but unfortunately we could not find any duck, so we went with pork belly here because of its similar fat content. We tested this recipe the previous day, so our oil is already seasoned, but if you're using a new oil or an animal fat, you want to add a pinch of salt and aromatics for flavor.
When you're confiting, you want to make sure the meat is fully submerged in your fat. Also, I'll be honest here, we probably cooked the pork belly at a little bit too high of a temperature. Ideally, you want this to cook at about 200 degrees. You definitely don't want to fry your protein. We cooked the meat for about 3 hours in the oven, and then we proceeded to sear the meat on both sides to give it a little bit of a crisp.
So next we're going to do a quick pickle. And this is pretty simple. Just cut some carrots into thin, long strips, not quite a julienne, add some ginger flakes, and then for the brine, we use rice vinegar, 2 parts sugar to 1 part salt, and we also added some dried chili flakes for spice. Once everything is bottled, you should let it sit in the refrigerator for 24 hours before using.
Okay, so now it's time to make the scallion pancakes. We use flour, sesame oil, salt, scallions, and warm water. To start, we're going to add the flour and salt in a mixing bowl and add the warm water in increments. I have to admit, when Gerald first told me we were making scallion pancakes, I was a little skeptical. I've never had a savory pancake, but just trust me, these are bomb, and plus they're more similar in texture to a tortilla.
This is a relatively sticky dough, but it will dry out as you work it later. Once all of your water is fully incorporated, you can knead the dough for 5 minutes on a floured surface.
After kneading the dough for 5 minutes, it should look like this. You're going to wrap it in plastic wrap and leave it on the counter to rest for about 30 minutes.
So it's been 30 minutes and the dough is rested. We're just going to put it on a floured surface and divide our big dough ball into fourths. Alright, so we're just going to roll out one of those dough balls until they're nice and flat. So this is a pretty tricky process. Obviously you don't want to tear your dough, but you do want it to be quite thin. As you can see here, I'm constantly working the dough, just moving it around, making sure it isn't sticking to the surface, making sure it's not sticking to the rolling pin, just making sure it's not sticking at all, because that's bad.
Once your dough is nice and thin, you're going to roll it up. You're going to use the tips of your fingers to push it into like a tube. Once it's pushed into a cylinder, you want to roll that up almost like a snail. I don't think that sounds appetizing, but that's the only thing I can think of. If you guys are enjoying this video so far, make sure you leave a like, make sure you comment, and make sure you subscribe. Also, make sure you share this video with your friends. We're working hard out here. Once you have it rolled up, you're going to essentially repeat the same process. You're going to make sure it's nice and floured. You're going to roll it out nice and real thin. And then this time, the only difference is you're going to add your sesame oil and your scallions. The sesame oil, trust me, takes it to the next level. It's an essential part of this recipe, so make sure you add your sesame oil. As you can see here, we added the sesame oil with our fingers. If you have a kitchen brush, use that.
Now we're going to add our scallions to the dough, sprinkle them on pretty evenly, and just roll it up like before. And I had some trouble trying to get the end tucked in nicely. Whatever you do, just make sure you get it in there so it's nice and secure when you're rolling out your final pancake. And don't worry trying to get some of the scallions back in the dough if they fall out. Just pop them back in there, it's not that big of a deal.
Okay, so now you're gonna cut out your pancakes. Of course, you can fry them as is, but we wanted ours to look a little neater, so we used the ring mold to cut out a perfect little circle. This recipe yielded us about 10 pancakes, and while you're rolling them out, store them in between 2 damp paper towels. Okay, so now it's time to fry them. You want to cook these in a neutral oil. That can be walnut oil, sunflower oil, whatever kind of oil you have on hand that has a high smoke point.
So we have our cast iron pan on medium-high heat here, and you just want to griddle these pancakes for about 2 to 3 minutes on each side until they're nice and golden brown. Once they're done cooking, we're just going to store them on a paper towel to remove any excess oil, and you want to make sure to salt them while they're still hot.
Okay, you made it to the end. This is the final step. Now we're going to make our Hoisin Gastrique. Okay, so you'll need sugar, balsamic vinegar, hoisin, and soy sauce. If you can find black vinegar instead of balsamic, use that. We couldn't find it.
We're going to add our ingredients to a small saucepan and put it on medium-high heat until it's nice and thickened.
Okay guys, here I am looking at myself in the spoon. You want to cook this until you basically can't see yourself anymore, until it's thick enough that it coats the spoon completely. Side note, you do want to keep this mixture warm though, otherwise it's going to get super thick and really hard to use. We had so much fun plating it. We were trying to be fancy and everything. But we ate it up. This was amazing. One of the best things I've ever tasted. I would highly encourage you guys, please make this. It's so good.